Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Erin Shoemate, and I am the Deputy Director here at Eno of our Professional Development Programs. Joined with me on the webinar is Karita Decree. She is one of the instructors of this program, and she is with Insight Strategies. We're going to wait just a few minutes as people are trickling in, and then we'll really get started on the webinar. Thank you again for joining, and I look forward to spending this time with you. Good morning, everyone. We are still waiting for a few more folks to arrive, so please hold tight and keep your phone on mute. We will be getting started momentarily. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar today. We are covering the Eno Transit Mid-Manager Seminar for our nominators and managers of the participants who are attending the class. My name is Erin Shoemate, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Eno Professional Development Programs and one of the instructors of this class. On the line today is also Karita Decree, who is the Managing Partner at Insight Strategies and another instructor of this class. So the two of us are the reigning experts, if you will, on this particular program. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We love your questions and any feedback, but if you do have questions, we've saved time at the end for that. But feel free to put them in the question box, and we will get to them right at the end. And again, that question box is just right on your GoToWebinar control panel. So feel free to type in anything in there, and the two of us will be monitoring that throughout the webinar. We are very mindful of your time. We know you are all busy people, so we are going to try to make this under an hour so that we can get you out and on about your days. So let's get started. For those of you, I see a number on the list who have either attended our classes or have sent folks before. This is really going to be a refresher for what you expect your employees and direct reports to go through this program, as well as what your involvement will be. And for those of you who are new, welcome, and we're excited to have you and your direct report as a part of the Eno family moving forward. So this webinar will be really good for you to introduce you to who Eno is, what your direct report is going to be going through in this program, as well as kind of what your involvement and your expectations are. So we will get right into it. If I can figure out how to work GoToWebinar. There we go. So like I said, it's a very, welcome to this webinar and welcome to the Eno family, as we like to call it. We have 3 courses this year. So we have our first mid-manager coming up next month in Salt Lake City. Then following that, we have one in Vancouver, British Columbia in August. And then our last one is in Pittsburgh in October. So your direct reports are attending one of these 3 unless you have more than one direct report coming, and you could have one in each class. Admission was really competitive this year. So we have 3 classes and we had over 100 applications. So we're really excited about really having the all-stars, your direct reports, attending the program this year. And we want to thank you really for nominating them to attend this class so that we can get to know them the way you get to know them. What we're going to cover on this webinar, first we're going to talk a little bit about who Eno is and what our professional development programs are all about. We're going to go into some of the course content so you will know what to expect your direct report will be learning. We're going to talk about the 360 process, the 360-degree assessment process. For those of you who have direct reports going to Salt Lake, you'll be familiar with this. The other 2 classes will begin their 360-degree processes soon, so you'll actually have a little bit more information leading into it than those with the Salt Lake class. We're going to talk about some tips on supporting and coaching your participant before they even get to the class, as well as after the class. And then we're going to leave time for question and answers, so if you have any, remember the question box is your go-to for those questions. So we're going to get started with the About Eno section. So Eno, William Falsino, is the founder of the Eno Center for Transportation. He wrote the Rules of the Road in 1903 and then established our think tank in 1921. So we were just about to hit our 100-year anniversary, and we are getting very excited about it. Upon his death, he endowed the organization, so that was in 1948. When we first got started, really it was all about roads and highways and how to fix the traffic that Mr. Eno was riding around in New York in the time. But now we're really multimodal. We cover all modes: aviation, freight, transit, maritime, roads, highways, you name it, we do research on it or cover it. We're a neutral, nonpartisan policy think tank, and we do research and development as well as the professional development, which I'll get into in a second. We are based in Washington, D.C. We have a staff of 12 and a 12-member board of directors. Of those 12, we actually have 3 former secretaries of transportation, Secretary Mineta, Secretary Peters, and Secretary Burnley. So I want to let you know more in depth about our professional development programs, since that at the moment is what we're here to talk about. So we started our first transit class in 2004, and that was our Transit Senior Executive class. We have another class that's been around for about 27 years, but that is a graduate student program, and it's transportation broader. So these are mainly our transit-specific classes. The next one we offered was this one, the mid-level management class. We began this class in 2010, so it's been around for 9 years. We first started the class, we only had 1 session per year, but as the demand grew and we could see the retirement rate growing and growing, the demand for the class grew as well. So in 2012, we actually added a 2nd session, and then in 2017, we added a 3rd, which is where we are today. Around 2015, we actually added the Level 2 program, so you'll see that on the list there. And this was really come from the survey that we did with the GMs and CEOs, and Krita will get into that a little bit more later. And we saw there was a need for additional topics to cover at the mid-level. And there wasn't any room to add it to the Level 1 program. As you'll see, it's already a packed class. So we created the Level 2 program. And anyone who's attended the Level 1 program can attend the Level 2, no application necessary. In 2016, we added the Multi-Agency Exchange Program, and that's an already formed program that we partnered with. The original 4 agencies were Dallas, DART, MARTA, LA Metro, and RTD Denver. So we partnered with them in 2016 and have since expanded the program to 4 additional properties. So now there's a total of 8, and they have 2 cohorts. So we added Valley Metro, Sound Transit, CATS in Charlotte, and then WMATA in DC. So we have more than 3,500 alumni across all of our programs and all career spans. So one of the great benefits of your direct report attending this program is that they're going to get added to this wonderful alumni network. We have a number of different things that are available to our alumni, from alumni-only webinars, alumni-only receptions across the country at different transit events like APTA events or TRB in DC. They get a membership to our publication for 6 months complimentary. And it's really just a great peer network for them to use as they grow in their career. So I'm going to kick it off to Karita now, and she's going to talk to you all about what the week has in store for your direct reports.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Erin. It's nice to be on this call with all of you, and we're looking forward to meeting your team members in Salt Lake City. I do want to give you a chance to just glance at this agenda. As you can see, it's a very, very full 5 days. So we do cover a number of topics. As Erin mentioned, a few years back, we did a survey of transit GMs and CEOs across the country, and their feedback is what helped to shape the topics for this class. As Erin mentioned, there is another Eno program, Transit Senior Executive, that some of you may be familiar with. This class is different from Senior Executive because it focuses more on skill building versus exposure like Senior Executive. So I want to highlight a couple of the topics that you see here, again, based on the GM CEO survey that we did. You'll see on day one that we spend some time talking about strategic and tactical thinking. This is based off of Stephen Covey's work. And we really feel like it's important to start getting your mid-level managers thinking strategically. We know that their role is very tactical, but we talk to them about the importance and the necessity of thinking strategically, and we try to make sure that they understand their connection to the organization's vision and mission, and make sure that they're seeing the importance of their role. We also spend some time on day one talking about transit trends. As you all know, transit is changing rapidly, and we spend some time, I think it's really a highlight of day one, talking about what is happening right now with regard to microtransit and TNCs and changes in technology and really what's in store. We talk about autonomous vehicles, et cetera. Day two, I think the biggest takeaway from day two is the communication module. We spent a lot of time talking about communication and the role of your mid-level manager as a translator between what happens at that higher executive level and the employees that report to them. We talk about the importance of credibility and how they can gain or improve their credibility with their teams and peers and executives. And then again, the communication module, we talk about different types of communication, and we really weave that communication content through the whole rest of the week. We talk about the communication cycle. We discuss differences between being a sender and a receiver of communication. We talk about shared meaning and what that is and how to attain it. And then we spend time talking about their communication styles and the communication styles of different people that they work with, both on their teams and their senior leadership. We get into the importance of self-awareness and perception. We talk about verbal and nonverbal communication. And then we finish that topic with listening, a module on listening, and talk about their listening skills and how to be better listeners and more whole brain listeners is what we call it. On Wednesday, we start with a tour of the host property, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. But then we don't start with the tour on Wednesday, it's in the afternoon. We start with team and trust building, and we talk about what successful teams look like. We talk about how to really develop trust on their teams, and we introduce them to an assessment, a model on how to assess their team and how their team is performing and what areas of team performance they really need to focus on. Thursday, we really get into coaching. It's our big coaching day. And we talk about the different types of coaching: appreciation coaching, growth coaching, and constructive coaching. And we provide models for each. On Friday, we have a leadership panel. That leadership panel tends to be populated by transit and transportation leaders. Typically, they're GMs and executives that are local to the area and from neighboring properties. And then we spend some time on generational differences in the workplace, which is, again, a hot topic right now, as Erin mentioned, with so many retirements. We like to talk about the different generations that are currently working together. We discuss their values and strengths and challenges and communication preferences. We give some tips if you are a transit manager and you've got folks from different generations that report to you, and how you manage that, right? If you're a mid manager and you're leading people who are from an from an older generation, and the dynamic that places in the workplace, and how to deal with that dynamic. You'll also see on every day that we spend some time in impact groups. So those impact groups are smaller groups that are broken out from the larger group. Erin, I think we have somewhere around 30-ish participants for Salt Lake, for example.
That is correct.
Right. So with that number of participants, sometimes your mid-managers need a little bit of time to just break away from that larger group and really reflect. The impact group is an opportunity for them to sort of pull away from that larger group and get into more focused conversations. So we do spend some time in large group and small group as well. Want to go to that next slide for me, Erin? Awesome. So here's where I want to share with you a little bit more about the guest lecturers, the application exercises that occur every day, and again, those impact groups. So I do want to highlight the agency tour, which I briefly mentioned on the previous slide. So on Wednesday afternoon, we tend to do a tour of our host property. It's a great time for the participants to really get a firsthand look at another transit property outside of their own. We look at their operations and their administration. And then I do want to mention, in addition to that, we have a recognition dinner speaker, and again, that leadership panel. The recognition dinner speaker is a current or former transit executive. We are happy to say that we've got Howard Permit speaking in Salt Lake City. He's the former president of Metro North Railroad, and he's going to be speaking in Salt Lake. Doug Kelsey is the CEO of TriMet, and he's going to be speaking to our group in Vancouver. And Catherine Egan, who's the CEO of Port Authority, is going to speak to the group in Pittsburgh. And then again, I mentioned the leadership panel. Those are usually 3 or 4 local leaders. And it's an informal opportunity for the participants to ask questions off the record about the leadership journey, right, of those leaders that are speaking at the leadership panel. Each session also has a number of application exercises that go along with it, and it's a chance for them to apply the skill that they just learned. So the application exercises, in addition to getting them up and around and not just, sitting at their desks or sitting at their tables, I should say, it's an opportunity for them to really jump in and apply what they've learned about leadership, about team building, about problem solving, communication. And then they even have a pre-session assignment. So they're already getting learning before they even enter the room. Their pre-session reading assignment is What Leaders Really Do by John Cotter. It was posted in HBR. So if you want to read that article, we can make sure that you get a copy of it. It would be a good opportunity for you to maybe talk with your participant before they even arrive about what they can expect to learn in the session. And then I mentioned those impact groups. Every day they get an opportunity to break away, and it's just, again, deeper exploration of their leadership skills. It's dedicated time for them to talk about whatever pressing issues they're facing on the job. And they get an opportunity to just get objective feedback and advice and brainstorming on issues that they're having and challenges that they're facing in a really small and trusting environment. So we even start with a pre-course impact group webinar. So they start getting associated and acquainted with their impact group members before they even attend the session. So I think those impact groups are really valuable. They maintain some of those relationships long after the class is over. All right, Erin, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. My computer seemed to have froze. All right, I think we got it. Technology can be a challenge sometimes, everyone. So like I mentioned before, part of this class, each participant has to complete a 360-degree assessment. So those of you who have team members who are in the Salt Lake City class have already started and are practically completed with this program or with this assessment, and they'll be starting actually their coaching calls in the next few weeks. The other two groups will begin the 360-degree processes in the next few weeks. So what we ask of them for this is for them to submit 15 to 18 raters. We ask them to submit their direct report or their direct manager. They have to submit a few of their direct reports if they have them, peers, or others, so they can really get a holistic view of how they are perceived at their workplace. And then they, of course, have a part of the assessment as well. We really encourage you all to be active in this part of the class. We'd like you, if possible, to set up a time to meet, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but to meet with your team member who's attending before they attend as well as after. It's a really good way to be involved and to keep engaged with them in this process. So a little bit more detailed about the 360-degree assessment. All of the feedback is anonymous except yours. As a direct manager, yours will be isolated. So your scores as well as your comments will be called out. All other comments will be considered anonymous and in groups. Really take time when you're doing this and filling it out for your participant. Be as honest and be as specific as you possibly can. It could take up to 30 to 40 minutes to do if really taking that time out. When you're filling it out, think about the honest feedback you want to give your team member. And part of that meeting that we'd like you to have before is the avoiding surprises and owning the feedback you give. So if you were to schedule a short meeting before they attend the class and even before they get the results for the 360, you can avoid surprises that way and make sure that you're both on the same page before you get there. When in that meeting, you can also explain why you nominated them. It really is an honor, and I know a number of organizations have a long, lengthy process to be one of the ones that get nominated to attend this. So it's an honor and it's an accomplishment, and we should encourage that to be highlighted. Again, address those 360 gaps early so there's no surprises, and that it gives you kind of a chance really to own the feedback you're giving them and to give them a spot to focus on when they're attending the class. Especially if there are specific items you want them to work on while they're in the class. It's a good opportunity in this meeting to align your expectations. So again, it goes into if there are specific things you want your direct report to focus on or team member to focus on, this meeting is a great time to have that conversation so that they know what they should be working on or what you would like them to be working on. And then you can also have the conversation with them to see what they want to be working on and what they feel they need to. It's a good time to also just set up expectations for what they should be bringing back. There's a number of different ways that different organizations do this. Some people have their participants write up a short article that will go in the organization newsletter. Some people will have them create a presentation or PowerPoint about what they learned and then present that to either their direct management or the director's team. So there's a number of different ways that you could have your team member report back to you on what they learned and how they've grown. And it really just has to work for you and for your organization. It's also a good opportunity to offer support. Let them know that while they're away at this course, really diving into some heavy topics, that you have their back, and you'll make sure that everything that they would normally do has been delegated properly and will get covered while they're away. So that also goes into the discussing the game plan and the logistics. So we highly suggest this meeting before they even come to the class. Now, after they get back from the class, it's also good to schedule a time to discuss what they learned. It goes into kind of what I just spoke about telling them to have something in preparation to present when they get back. It's really the ROI of why they're attending. It's good to present that to their leaders and their direct managers. So you'll discuss what they learned. Obviously, some of the things they will learn will be confidential because we are in a safe space setting, but they should be able to share with you much of it. And then reviewing the 360. The meeting after the class is a great opportunity to see on those specific items you agreed together to work on, what they learned and how they can apply it, and then it also is a good way for you to check in with them in the 30 or 60, 90 days afterwards. Please allow time for the reinforcement webinars. There are 2 reinforcement webinars after each class. They're about 30 days and 60 days after the class. And so just please encourage them to attend those webinars. They're large coaching roundtables that are really a great opportunity for the students to check in with each other, to see what they've applied, what worked, what didn't, and give advice to each other. Schedule a date to present the learning. So again, it goes into that expectations of what they should be bringing back and how they should be presented to you and to their leadership team. Check in regularly, and of course, gather Eno alumni in your organization. So I know a number of organizations have sent tens of people through this program, and what they'll do is they'll end up all meeting each other, because a number, especially in the larger organizations, they'll go through the program and they'll meet someone who works for the same agency that they do, that they've never met before and would not have met if not for this program. So it's a great opportunity to really encourage them to meet once a month, or have webinars. We have some groups who have brown bag lunches once a month that they'll all just bring their lunch together and chat and check in and see if what they're doing from the class is working, and have a peer coaching session. So the learning really continues even after the class has completed. And then some of the other transit offerings we have, what I just mentioned, the TMM follow-up webinars. So again, there's 2 for each class. The first one is an hour and a half, and the second one is 1 hour. And they're roughly 30 to 68 days after each class has been completed. We talked about Transit Mid-Manager Level 2 earlier in the webinar. This is an annual class that we do. It's always the first week of November. This year's class will be opening soon to register for, and any of your team members who are attending this year's class can attend the Level 2 in this year, but we do typically suggest that it's 1 to 3 years after they've taken the first level, just so they can really apply what they've learned in the first level, try things out, and then when they're ready, attend Level 2. But it is good to know if you have other alumni that the Level 2 is happening this year, November 6th through 8th. And I see that a few of you on the call have actually attended our Transit Senior Executive Program. So the dates are out for 2020. We are hosting it March 1st through 6th. And we're going to be in Alexandria, Virginia, which is actually just outside of Washington, D.C. It's a beautiful little town. It's called Old Town Alexandria, and it's a great spot to really have the executives come and learn for the week. And then again, I mentioned the Eno Multi-Agency Exchange Program. This is a program we're actively expanding, so if your organization wants to learn more about it, we are happy to give you some information and talk to you after the webinar about this. So again, I want to thank you all for attending the webinar today. I'm going to now open it up for questions. So if you do have questions, please use the question box, and I will get to them if I can. Hold on one second. There we go. Let's see. Go into the questions. Yes, this presentation is recorded, and it will be emailed out to all of the participants to share with their direct reports, as well as all of those who nominated a person. So I know sometimes the person who nominates is not the direct manager. So we are going to be providing this to both of those groups. So in case you know someone who also has a team member coming to the class, you can share the webinar with them. So thank you for that question. We'll leave some time. If you have any other questions, feel free to type them into the question box, and we'll make sure we can answer them. Or you can also follow up with either of us after the webinar. All right, it looks like we don't have any other questions, so I want to thank you all for your time today. And as the process moves forward, oh, I do see one other question. The question is, does anyone ever do the senior program twice? Valerie, she's already giving us Valerie Gibson is already giving us a little plug. Unfortunately, no. It's once you've done it, you can't do it again. But we could certainly recommend some other classes for you. All right, everyone. Well, I want to thank you again for your time on behalf of myself, Karita, and the Eno Center for Transportation. We're really looking forward to meeting your team members at the 3 seminars this year and working with you on their continual learning. So thank you again, and I hope you all have a great day.